Every leader pays a tax. You either pay the tax of execution or you pay the tax of avoidance. One of them will build your future and the other one steals it. The problem is so many managers, they never sit down and actually calculate the cost of doing nothing. I wrote a whole chapter of this in my book, Unstoppable Culture, and I called it the cost of mediocrity. And there is a heavy price when you choose to be mediocre. See, most of us just sit down and all we do is look at the discomfort of acting, but we never look at the destruction of inaction. And that's where so many leaders get in trouble. And that's why their culture drifts and their team gets inconsistent, why they lose their confidence, and why results stall. And today, we're going to expose the tax that you're paying and how to stop paying it. I'm Chris Hunsaker, and this is the Dealership War Room. Leadership fire, 7 minutes, built daily, fueled intentionally, and delivered relentlessly. And today, we're going to dive into exposing that tax. So let's get going. So many leaders underestimate the cost of inaction. And the reason is, you know what effort costs. You know what training costs. You know what accountability costs, but you almost never calculate the cost of waiting, the cost of delaying that decision, the cost of avoiding that conversation, the cost of staying in overwhelm, the cost of just continually reacting, and the cost of not fixing that one move. Because inaction compounds just like interest. The problem is it compounds in the wrong direction, the opposite way. And every day that you avoid fixing that one move, the cost rises. The drift is real, and it's silently killing your momentum because leaders don't fail suddenly. They fail slowly. It's a missed standard. It's a delayed conversation, a sloppy process, a tolerated behavior, and a postponed correction. Now, all of a sudden, 1 becomes 2, 2 becomes 10, and then you lose the month. And you say to yourself, you know what, it's okay. We're going to start over again next month. That's what I call the drift, that slow slide into mediocrity. And it's like gravity. It's always pulling you back. It's a cultural gravity of mediocrity. And the drift always wins unless you can create urgency. Urgency is it's that power that gets you to transcend the cultural gravity of mediocrity. But just like a rocket taking off, once you get past gravity, you have an unlimited ability to expand and grow. Remember yesterday, Ryan found his one move, right? It was to start his morning huddles on time every day, no exceptions. Simple, powerful, and transformative. But here's the leadership trap. Ryan starts saying to himself, you know what? I think I'm going to wait till next week to start. I'm going to hold off until the team is in a better mood. You know what? Now's just not the right time. I just need a little bit more time. Can you hear that conversation in his head? Have you ever had that conversation in your head? And without realizing it, here's what it cost him. A 5% drop in energy. Accountability starts to get blurry. People start to come in late. The month gets inconsistent. Momentum evaporates. And Ryan starts to lose his confidence. And his team, they lose their belief. And all that because of one delayed behavior. That is the avoidance tax. And it is real and it is steep. So let's take a look at the most important question, MIQ number 3. If I delay this one move by 30 days, what happens to my momentum, my morale, and my money? Each of these have a real cost, and we want to denominate them. Just like we send a daily doc sheet in at the end of the night, how many cars did we sell for how much gross profit? Everybody has to send in the daily doc sheet at the end of the evening. Can you imagine if you had a daily doc sheet for delayed action, and we actually denominated the cost of being mediocre, denominated the cost of avoidance? If you had it in black and white on a sheet of paper, I guarantee you your urgency would grow up. So use this question to create the kind of clarity that will create urgency and drive behavior instead of constantly trying to force yourself. Let's look at each of those 3 areas. So let's look at number 1, money. If you don't denominate, what is the actual cost in dollars to you of not taking this decision, of not following through on this one behavior? Lower grosses, lower service throughput, lower PVR, missed appointments, missed sales, missed bonuses. In other words, look at every single area that you can and say, by not making this decision right now, what is the actual real cost to me in terms of dollars in my dealership? And the second M is morale, where the costs are just as real and the denomination is just as important. Think of things like, how will avoiding this behavior, avoiding this decision, create team frustration, where everybody loses focus, lack of trust, more conflict, emotional volatility, and just that sense of reaction and just being negatively reacted all the time, team drama coming in. All of that has a real cost, and you want to denominate it. If I don't engage in this behavior, do that one thing, what's the real cost in terms of team morale? Now let's look at the last M, momentum. And this is so critical. We all know it, right? Best time to sell a car is right after you sold a car. You cannot replace the power of momentum. And yet when you avoid making decisions, when you avoid in those behaviors, that one thing that you know you need to do, you start to see it. You get slower starts, weaker habits, less vision, leadership fatigue. You get this sense of never being able, you're walking in quicksand, you're walking in mud. There is a real consequence that you start to see when you lose that momentum. So all three of these add up together. What's the cost in money? What's the cost in morale? What's the cost in my momentum? Once you put those three together, now you know what it really costs to delay taking action, to avoid that one behavior. And you denominate those costs, you will instantly have urgency. Because when you actually calculate the cost, hesitation disappears. Here's the punchline. If you knew the real cost of not taking action, you would immediately stop delaying and start executing because you know. So today's insight to action bridge is simple. I want you to take the one move that you developed yesterday, that you identified yesterday, and we're just going to run it through our cost filter. In other words, we're going to run it through MIQ3. What is the actual cost in terms of money, in terms of morale, and in terms of momentum? And please write it down. Do this as an exercise. If you want to put it on a spreadsheet, go ahead and do that. This is an amazing calculation that I would ask you to use for anything that comes up. Something huge, like implementing a new DMS, or something very little, like making a small change in a process. But start looking at saying, what is the cost of delaying? Look at each of those three areas, write it down, and then go ahead and execute. Because tomorrow in episode 205, we're going to pull all of this together. And I'm going to show you how to take these three questions and put it together to build your own clarity engine. So you can literally take procrastination and delay and remove it. Have an instant sense of urgency for yourself, for your team, and everyone in your store. Not by yelling and screaming or being overly positive in your motivation, but by creating absolute clarity of the cost of inaction so that there's no choice left but to move forward. So today, go out, create some leadership fire. And if you really want to dive in, become an execution ninja, then text the word overwhelm to the number that you see on the screen, and we'll help you and we'll give you instant access to our AI execution bot. She's amazing. It's amazing. It'll help you do everything that you need to start really getting the clarity around money, morale, and momentum so you can start making incredibly intelligent choices and create an urgency that you need to compete in an environment that has never existed before. So please go out today, create some leadership fire, do the exercise, write down this cost, and then come back tomorrow, and I'll see you tomorrow in the Dealership War Room. We're going to absolutely nail your clarity engine.